If you don't show up for yourself in 2026, no one else will, and deep down, you already know that. You owe it to yourself in 2026 to stop watching life happen and finally take control of your own. Not just because you're tired, not just because you're frustrated, but because you've waited long enough. You've seen the days go by where you said you'd start. You've felt the regret of knowing you could have done more. You've kept quiet about what you really want because you didn't feel ready. But here's the truth, there is no perfect time. There's just now. This isn't about motivation that fades in an hour. This is about truth, your truth. And whether you live this year on purpose or keep putting it off, this video isn't here to hype you up, it's here to wake you up. Because 2026 can be the year everything shifts if you finally choose you. Chapter 1. Accept your past and decide to start loving yourself. You owe it to yourself in 2026 to stop carrying the weight of yesterday. Every person I've met who wanted to grow, who wanted to change their life, had one thing standing in their way: how they saw themselves. Not their circumstances, not their money, not their luck. It was how they felt when they looked in the mirror. The truth is, you can't build a new life if you're still punishing yourself for the old one. You've made mistakes, you've failed, you've disappointed people, you've done things you're not proud of. Everyone has. But you can't heal or move forward if you keep treating your past like a prison. The past is over. The lesson remains, but the pain doesn't have to. You owe it to yourself to look back at who you were and say, I understand why you did what you did. That's not weakness. That's growth. That's what real maturity looks like. See, many people think self-love means feeling good all the time. It doesn't. Real self-love starts when you stop hiding from your own story. It's when you stop pretending that you never struggled, and you start seeing those struggles as proof of your endurance. The day you decide to forgive yourself is the day your energy changes. You start thinking clearer. You breathe easier. You walk lighter. You stop living as a reaction to pain and start creating from strength. You owe yourself the honesty to face your past, not to dwell on it, but to understand it. Why did you give up that dream? Why did you let someone's opinion matter more than your own? Why did you believe you weren't enough? These are not questions to shame yourself with. They're questions that help you grow. The goal is not to relive the pain, but to recognize how it shaped your thinking. Every belief that limits you came from an old moment that hurt. Until you go back and face that, you'll keep reliving it in new ways. There's something powerful about saying, yes, I messed up, but I'm still worthy. Because when you carry guilt for too long, it turns into self-hate. And self-hate quietly kills everything you want to build. It kills confidence, creativity, ambition, connection, and peace. When you don't love yourself, you spend your life trying to earn worthiness from others. You chase approval. You chase attention. You work hard to be enough for everyone except you. But 2026 can be different. This is your year to stand up and say, I owe myself a clean slate, not a perfect life, just a clean start. That means forgiving yourself for every time you stayed quiet when you should have spoken up. Forgiving yourself for every goal you quit halfway through. Forgiving yourself for the people you hurt when you didn't know better. Because now you do know better. And when you know better, you can live better. Self-love isn't about saying everything's fine when it's not. It's about facing the truth and still choosing to care for yourself anyway. You can admit that you've failed and still believe that you can win. You can admit that you've been lazy and still decide to be disciplined. You can admit that you've been afraid and still take the next step. That's the balance of real personal growth, honesty, without self-destruction. If you want 2026 to be your turning point, stop waiting for someone to come along and make you feel good about your past. No one can do that for you. People can love you, support you, guide you, but no one can heal what you refuse to face. The healing starts when you look at your own reflection and say, I deserve another chance. You can't hate yourself into a better version of you. You can only grow through patience, forgiveness, and consistency. Start small. Start by catching how you talk to yourself. When you fail, what's the first thought that comes to your mind? I'm such an idiot. I'll never get it right. That voice needs to change. Not through false positivity, but through compassion. When a friend falls, you don't call them a failure, you help them stand up. Do that for yourself. You're human. You'll make more mistakes, but if you treat every mistake like proof that you're broken, you'll never build anything. Look, life has already been hard enough. Why keep making it harder by being your own enemy? Imagine how much energy you could free if you stopped replaying every regret. The energy that you waste on guilt could be building something incredible, but it starts with acceptance. You can't rewrite the past, but you can decide how it shapes your future. The same pain that once made you hide can now make you strong. The same failure that embarrassed you can now teach you persistence. You don't erase the past, you transform it. When I talk to people who've rebuilt their lives, they all say the same thing. It started when I finally forgave myself. That's not a weak moment. It's a moment of power, because forgiveness takes courage. It takes self-awareness. It means you've stopped making excuses and started taking responsibility. There's no progress without ownership. You can't grow while still blaming or avoiding. So, as you move into 2026, make a promise to yourself. Promise that you will no longer let guilt or shame control your choices. Promise that you'll speak to yourself with kindness, even when things go wrong. Promise that you'll give yourself the same patience you give everyone else. Because no one can do the work of self-acceptance for you. No coach, no mentor, no partner. It's your responsibility. You owe it to yourself. Maybe no one ever told you this before, but you deserve to be on your own side. You deserve to believe in your own potential. You deserve to wake up and not feel weighed down by yesterday's failures. The past isn't a life sentence, it's a classroom, and you've already graduated. The question is, what will you do with what you've learned? When you forgive yourself, you don't erase what happened, you remove its control over your future. You finally free yourself from the loop of self-blame. You stop saying, I can't, and start asking, how can I? You stop defining yourself by what you did, and start defining yourself by what you're doing now. That's what loving yourself really means. It's not about arrogance or pretending you're perfect. It's about owning your story completely. And you know what happens when you own your story? You stop running from it. You stop letting fear dictate your choices. You start showing up for yourself in ways that make you proud. You start keeping promises to yourself. You start living with integrity again. That's the foundation of self-respect. I want you to picture this. You wake up one morning in 2026, and instead of thinking about what you lost or who hurt you, you feel calm, you feel proud, you feel in control. That's what happens when you stop fighting yourself. You finally have energy for the things that matter, your goals, your relationships, your peace. You begin to attract better situations because you're no longer living from pain, but from clarity. Loving yourself doesn't mean everything suddenly becomes easy. Life will still test you. You'll still have setbacks. But when you love yourself, you don't crumble under pressure, you adjust. You stop giving up when it gets hard, because you know you're worth the effort. You become your own anchor, instead of your own storm. Remember, you don't owe anyone else your transformation. You owe it to yourself. Because when you're at peace with your past, you move differently, you talk differently. You make decisions that honor your future instead of protecting your pain. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You start trusting your path. If you want to build confidence in 2026, start by being honest about what you've been running from. If you want peace, stop holding on to grudges against yourself. If you want growth, stop waiting for permission to move forward. You've been given another year, another chance, another morning to start over. Use it. Make it count. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, it means you've chosen to stop letting yesterday control your emotions today. And when you reach that point, when you finally decide to love yourself without conditions, you'll realize that all the energy you spent doubting yourself was never wasted. It was teaching you who you don't want to be anymore. You've carried the past long enough. It's time to set it down. You don't have to fix everything overnight. You just have to decide that your future is worth more than your regrets. You owe it to yourself to stand tall, even if your voice shakes, and say, "I'm ready to move forward," because you are. You've got everything you need to start again. You've got the lessons, the strength, the awareness. You're wiser now. You've been through enough to know that pain doesn't last forever, but regret does. So stop living in regret. Stop waiting for the right time to forgive yourself. The right time is now. You owe it to yourself in 2026 to live lighter, to love harder, to care for the person you see in the mirror. You owe it to yourself to stop apologizing for growing. You owe it to yourself to stop comparing your journey to others. You owe it to yourself to believe that you can start over and still become everything you're meant to be. That's the truth about change. It begins the moment you stop looking back and start seeing yourself as worth the effort. Chapter 2. Forgive yourself for waiting and begin again with honesty. You owe it to yourself in 2026 to stop being angry at the time you lost. Maybe you waited too long to start. Maybe you thought you weren't ready. Maybe you were scared of failing, or you kept convincing yourself that the timing wasn't right. Whatever the reason, those years of waiting are gone, and no amount of guilt will bring them back. But what you can do, what you must do, is forgive yourself for waiting, because holding on to regret keeps you standing still, and you've stood still long enough. Everyone has a moment when they realize they could have started earlier. It might hit you when you see someone younger achieving what you once wanted. It might hit you when you look at your own potential and wonder where the years went. But here's the truth. It's not too late. The clock didn't run out on you. What's behind you doesn't define what's ahead of you. The only thing that matters is whether you start again with honesty, with the kind of honesty that doesn't hide behind excuses or blame. Forgiving yourself isn't weakness. It's strength in its purest form. It takes courage to say, "I wasted time," and even more courage to say, "But I'm ready now." You can't move forward while resenting your own delay. You have to make peace with the person who hesitated. They didn't know what you know now. They were doing the best they could with the understanding they had, and maybe they were scared, unsure, or tired, but they were still you. They brought you here. Honor that version of you, but don't stay stuck there. If you look back with anger, you miss the lesson. If you look back with compassion, you find direction. Maybe you waited because you didn't believe in yourself. That's human. Maybe you waited because you cared too much about what others thought. That's human too. But what's more human and more powerful is the ability to forgive that hesitation, to start fresh, and to do it without pretending. Because pretending drains energy. Honesty frees it. You don't need to act like everything's fine. You just need to be real. Admit to yourself that you've been holding back. Admit that you've made excuses. Admit that fear stopped you from showing up fully. This isn't about shame. It's about clarity. Clarity is what builds direction. When you face the truth, you gain power over it. But when you avoid it, the truth quietly controls you. Maybe there were moments when you said, "I'll start next week." Maybe you promised yourself, "Once I'm ready, I'll go all in." And then months turned into years. You looked up one day and realized that time doesn't wait. It keeps moving whether you move or not. That realization hurts, but it can also be the push you've been waiting for. Because now you know what happens when you delay. You've lived the consequences of waiting. And that experience can fuel your discipline like nothing else. Don't waste more time being angry at your hesitation. That anger is just another delay. Instead, take that energy and pour it into action. One small action today can rebuild confidence faster than 100 apologies to yourself. You don't have to fix everything overnight. You just have to begin again with honesty and intention. Say to yourself, yes, I stopped, but I'm starting again. And this time, I mean it. The beauty of beginning again is that you're not starting from zero. You're starting from experience. You've learned what doesn't work. You've seen what fear does when you let it rule you. You've felt what it's like to live below your potential. That wisdom is priceless. It makes you sharper. It makes you more grounded. It makes you appreciate progress in a way that someone who's never failed can't. Honesty means no more pretending that you're okay with comfort. Comfort feels good for a while, but after some time it turns into a quiet frustration. You feel it when you wake up with no excitement. You feel it when you go through the motions, telling yourself that someday you'll change. That someday is a lie that has stolen too many dreams. The only real day you have control over is today, not tomorrow, not next month, not when you feel ready. Today. Forgiving yourself means accepting that you can't redo the past, but you can direct the next chapter. You can use every ounce of regret as fuel for focus. You can use disappointment as a reminder that time is precious. Every minute you spend resenting your delay is a minute you could be using to build momentum. Don't turn your past hesitation into a lifelong identity. You're not someone who always waits. You're someone who learned what waiting costs and decided not to pay that price again. There's something powerful about being honest with yourself after years of pretending. When you stop lying to yourself about why you didn't start, you finally get your power back. Maybe it wasn't time that stopped you. Maybe it was fear of judgment. Maybe it was laziness. Maybe it was lack of belief. Whatever it was, own it. Because once you own it, it stops owning you. You don't need a big announcement to begin again. You don't need a perfect plan or public validation. You just need to take one step that says, I'm serious this time. That could mean waking up earlier. That could mean deleting distractions. That could mean admitting you've been afraid to commit. The point is to act in alignment with truth. When you do that, your confidence grows naturally. You stop chasing motivation because you're living with purpose. 2026 isn't going to reward those who keep waiting. It's going to reward those who face the mirror and say, enough, I've waited long enough. You've already lost enough time to hesitation. You've already missed enough chances by doubting yourself. You don't have to punish yourself anymore. You just have to start. The most powerful thing you can do now is replace guilt with responsibility. Responsibility means looking at your life as something you can shape, not something that happens to you. It means realizing that no one else is going to do it for you. The world won't pause for you to feel ready. Opportunity doesn't knock forever. Sometimes it whispers once, and you either move or you don't. The good news is, you can build new opportunities. You can create a life that feels alive again. But that begins when you stop lying to yourself about why you're waiting. Maybe you've told yourself you're too old, too behind, too far gone. That's not truth. That's fear dressed as logic. You can rebuild at any age. You can start over from any point. The key is not to be perfect, it's to be consistent. The people you admire didn't start early because they had luck. They started early because they stopped lying to themselves about why they couldn't. Forgiving yourself means releasing the shame of wasted years and using that lesson to protect your future. It's a decision, not a feeling. You won't wake up one day suddenly ready to forgive yourself. You'll have to choose it consciously. Choose to look at your mistakes and say, I was learning. Choose to look at your hesitation and say, that chapter is over. Choose to look at your future and say, this time, I'm not waiting. And when you start again, do it with honesty. Don't fake enthusiasm. Don't tell yourself that it's going to be easy. Just decide that you're going to show up no matter what. The truth will keep you grounded. You don't need hype. You need truth. You need consistency. You need a reason that means something to you. Because when your why is strong enough, your old excuses lose their power. If you've been waiting for someone to push you, understand this. The world doesn't owe you permission to move forward. It's your job to take responsibility for your own timing. You owe yourself progress. You owe yourself effort. You owe yourself honesty. When you begin again, do it from a place of gratitude, not guilt. Be grateful that you still have time. Be grateful that you've learned what procrastination costs. Be grateful that you can still decide to live differently. There's a calm that comes with forgiving yourself. It feels like peace returning to your body after years of tension. You stop flinching at your own reflection. You stop comparing yourself to everyone who started earlier. You realize they're on their own timeline and you're on yours. Life isn't a race, it's a personal contract. You owe it to yourself to fulfill your own potential, not to compete, not to impress, but to live fully. When you begin again with honesty, you reconnect with self-respect. You don't need to hide behind fake optimism. You can say, this is hard, but I'm doing it anyway. You can say, I've failed before, but I'm still trying. That's real strength. That's what changes a person. And here's the secret: once you start moving, forgiveness becomes easier. Action rebuilds trust. Every small step you take says to your mind, we're not stuck anymore. That's how you heal the part of you that feels guilty for wasting time. You replace guilt with progress. You replace regret with responsibility. And soon, you begin to like the person you're becoming. You owe yourself that second chance. You owe yourself the truth. No more pretending that time has run out. It hasn't. You're still here. You're still breathing. You still have mornings to wake up to, evenings to reflect, moments to build. All you have to do is start with honesty. Forgive the waiting. Stop the self-blame. Begin again, not with pressure, but with peace. You've waited long enough to feel ready. You've replayed the same doubts long enough to know where they lead. Now, it's time to see what happens when you choose differently. No one can change the past, but you can decide that the past won't keep changing you. Forgive the time you lost. Honor the lessons you gained. Begin again with a clear heart and an honest mind. Because this time, it's not about perfection, it's about freedom. And that freedom begins with the words, I forgive myself, and I'm ready to move forward.
Chapter 3. Train your mind to choose peace over overthinking daily. Peace is not something that just happens to you. Peace is something you train your mind to choose every single day. Most people live trapped in their own thoughts. They replay old conversations, they imagine new problems, they fight invisible battles in their heads. And then they wonder why they feel tired before the day even begins. Overthinking doesn't protect you from pain, it only multiplies it. Your mind becomes a battlefield when it should be your home. You owe it to yourself to make that home peaceful. Every morning you wake up, your mind starts running before you even get out of bed. Thoughts about work, people, mistakes, responsibilities, they rush in like a flood. And if you don't take control early, that noise controls you for the rest of the day. You can't live a calm life with a chaotic mind. You can't grow when your energy is being spent on problems that don't even exist yet. Overthinking takes small worries and turns them into walls. Peace breaks those walls down and reminds you that most things aren't as big as your thoughts make them. Training your mind doesn't mean forcing yourself to stop thinking. It means learning to direct your thoughts toward what helps you, not what hurts you. It means creating space between what happens to you and how you react. The mind loves to run, but peace teaches it how to walk. When you learn to slow your thoughts down, you gain control over your emotion. You begin to see that not everything needs an instant reaction. Not every thought needs a reply, and not every worry deserves attention. Think about how many times your day was ruined by something that only existed in your imagination. You thought someone was upset with you. You imagined failure before you even tried. You replayed what you said to someone last week, as if you could rewrite it by worrying about it. That's how overthinking steals your joy. It convinces you that being prepared means being anxious, but peace is preparation too. Peace says, whatever happens, I'll handle it. That mindset is freedom. Peace is a skill. It doesn't come naturally, especially if you've spent years feeding your mind negativity. You've trained your brain to expect chaos, so now you have to train it to expect calm. You do that by paying attention to your thoughts. When you catch yourself spiraling, stop and ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? If it's hurting you, let it go. If it's helping you, act on it. You can't stop thoughts from coming, but you can stop them from taking over. One of the most powerful habits you can build is mental awareness. Most people react to their thoughts as if they're facts. A thought comes and they believe it immediately. I'm not good enough. I'll never get this right. People don't like me. These are just sentences in your head, not truths. The moment you realize that thoughts are suggestions, not commands, you take your power back. Peace begins where blind belief ends. Your mind will always try to pull you into worry because it's wired to protect you. But in today's world, that protection often turns into panic. We live surrounded by information, opinions, and noise. Every notification, every piece of bad news, every comparison adds fuel to your thoughts. That's why you must be intentional about what you feed your mind. You can't fill your brain with fear all day and expect peace at night. You have to choose what enters your mental space. When you feel your thoughts racing, slow down your breathing. It may sound simple, but your breath controls your mind more than you realize. When you breathe calmly, your body sends a message to your brain that you are safe. And when you feel safe, the need to overthink fades. Do this often enough, and your mind learns that peace is the new normal. You don't reach peace by escaping your thoughts. You reach it by mastering them. Overthinking is often disguised as responsibility. You tell yourself you're just being careful, or that you need to think everything through. But what you're really doing is trying to control what you can't. The mind that always tries to control ends up losing control. Peace comes from accepting what's in your hands and releasing what's not. That's not avoidance. That's wisdom. Life won't always go the way you plan, but peace keeps you stable when it doesn't. The hardest part of choosing peace is that your ego will fight it. Your ego loves drama. It wants to be right. It wants to defend. It wants to win arguments. But peace isn't about winning. It's about understanding. It's about realizing that not everything needs a fight. When you argue less with others and more with your own thoughts, you start seeing the world differently. You stop taking things personally. You stop creating stories around every situation. You begin to live lighter. Peace isn't a sign of weakness. It's proof of strength. It takes strength to stay calm when your mind wants to panic. It takes discipline to stop replaying the same negative scenario. It takes maturity to say, I don't have to think about this right now. Anyone can overthink. It takes practice to rise above it. You're not running away from reality when you choose peace. You're returning to clarity. Start with small practices. When something bothers you, Pause before reacting. Ask yourself if it's worth your mental energy. If someone says something negative, you don't have to hold on to it all day. If something goes wrong, don't build a whole future out of that one mistake. Peace lives in the pause between reaction and reflection. The more you pause, the more power you gain over your thoughts. A peaceful mind is not an empty mind, it's a focused one. It's a mind that knows how to filter what matters. Every day, you have a choice. Feed your anxiety or feed your calm. Whichever one you feed more will grow. If you want peace to grow, you have to give it attention. Spend time in silence. Disconnect from things that overstimulate you. Listen to music that relaxes you. Read something that uplifts you. Every small choice builds mental balance. Most people think peace is found when life gets easier. It's not. Peace is what makes life easier. When your mind is calm, you handle challenges better. You think clearer. You don't waste energy on what doesn't matter. You respond with patience instead of anger. You listen more and react less. That's real power. Quiet, steady, and deeply rooted. You'll notice that overthinking often comes from fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of judgment. Fear of making mistakes. But fear doesn't go away by thinking about it more. It goes away when you act in spite of it. Overthinking is paralyzing. Action is freeing. Sometimes peace comes not from sitting still, but from doing what you know needs to be done. When you act, your mind has less room to spiral. Peace and overthinking can't live in the same space. You have to choose one, and every day you have that choice. You can spend the morning doubting yourself, or you can use that energy to plan your next step. You can waste your evenings worrying about what people think, or you can use that time to learn something new. Every thought you allow has a cost. Peace is knowing which thoughts are worth paying attention to. When your mind starts to overthink, remind yourself that not every problem needs to be solved immediately. Some things need time. Some questions don't have answers yet. Give yourself permission to not know everything right now. The need for constant control is what fuels anxiety. Peace comes when you accept uncertainty without letting it steal your calm. Think about how you talk to yourself when you're stressed. Do you speak kindly, or do you attack yourself with guilt and doubt? The mind believes what it hears the most. If you feed it harshness, it will create tension. If you feed it kindness, it will relax. You can't shame your mind into peace. You can only guide it there. Be gentle when you correct your thoughts. Say, I don't need to think about this now, and move. That's how you build inner strength, through repetition and patience. Some people wait for peace to appear when everything is perfect. But peace isn't found in perfection. It's found in acceptance. There will always be something uncertain, something unfinished, something out of your control. If you keep waiting for everything to settle before you feel calm, you'll spend your whole life waiting. Peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of perspective. Start noticing what triggers your overthinking. It could be scrolling too much online, talking to negative people, or revisiting old situations. Once you recognize your triggers, set boundaries. Protect your mental space like it's sacred, because it is. You can't allow everyone and everything to have access to your peace. Learn to say no when something disrupts your calm. You're not being rude. You're being responsible. There will be days when peace feels hard to find. Days when your mind wants to run back to old habits. That's okay. You're not failing. You're training. Training takes time. You didn't learn to overthink overnight, and you won't unlearn it overnight either. But each day you practice awareness. Each time you catch yourself before the spiral starts, you're strengthening a new mental muscle. Eventually peace becomes your default. You owe it to yourself to stop letting your thoughts hurt you. You owe it to yourself to build a mind that feels safe to live in. You owe it to yourself to stop giving overthinking all your energy. Your peace matters more than your fears. Your calm is more valuable than your control. You can't create a good life if your mind is always in chaos. So every morning, remind yourself, today I choose peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because I deserve to feel okay, even when it's not. Today I will not argue with my mind. Today I will give myself space to breathe. That's how peace begins. Not in some distant future, but right now, in this moment. And the more often you choose it, the easier it becomes. You've spent enough time living as a prisoner of your thoughts. It's time to live as their master. Overthinking will always knock at your door, but peace is the one who decides whether it gets to stay. Train your mind daily. Guard your attention fiercely. Treat peace like your most valuable possession, because every quiet moment you create, every anxious thought you release, every decision you make from calm instead of fear, that's a victory. And one day you'll look back and realize that the peace you were chasing was never out there. It was always waiting inside you, waiting for you to choose it.
Chapter 4. Stand up for your dreams even when no one claps. There will come a time when you'll have to walk alone, when the room will be quiet and no one will say your name. You'll look around and realize that the people you thought would cheer you on are silent, that silence can break you or build you. This is where your strength is tested, not when everyone believes in you, but when no one does. You owe it to yourself to stand up for your dreams, even when no one claps, even when your efforts go unnoticed, and even when it feels like no one understands what you're trying to do. Most people start strong when there's excitement around them. They work hard when others notice. They stay motivated when they get praise, and they feel confident when validation keeps coming. But when the noise fades, most stop. The truth is, the people who achieve real success are the ones who keep showing up long after the applause has stopped. They understand that their dream is their responsibility, not anyone else's. They don't wait for motivation, they build discipline. They don't wait for recognition, they build consistency. If you're waiting for support to move forward, you'll stay waiting. The world doesn't always celebrate effort, it celebrates results. And until those results appear, most won't understand what you're building. But you can't let that stop you. Every dream begins in silence. Every idea starts in private. The world only claps when they see the finish line, not when you're still running the race. But your job isn't to perform for them. Your job is to believe so deeply in what you're doing that their silence doesn't shake you. You will have nights where you question yourself. You'll wonder if it's worth it, if you're foolish for trying, if you're wasting time chasing something no one else sees. In those moments, remind yourself why you started. Remember the feeling that made you dream in the first place. That feeling is real. That spark is yours. No one gave it to you, and no one can take it away. People might doubt your dream, but they can't live with your regret. Only you will have to carry that. So carry your dream instead. Standing up for your dream doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means facing reality and deciding to shape it. It means pushing forward, even when it's uncomfortable. It means being okay with not being understood for a while. People might think you've changed. They might question your choices. They might laugh. But remember, those who mock what they don't understand are often the ones too afraid to try. Let them talk. While they talk, you work. While they wait for approval, you build. The path of a dreamer is not glamorous. It's filled with long hours, self-doubt, and moments when you wonder if anyone even notices what you're doing. But those quiet moments are sacred. That's where character is formed. When you work without recognition, you learn who you really are. You learn whether you're doing it for the praise or for the purpose. If your dream only matters when someone's watching, it's not a dream, it's a performance. But if it matters even when no one sees, that's your calling. You owe it to yourself to believe in your dream, louder than others. Doubt it. Because if you don't believe, no one else will. People believe in proof, but proof only comes after persistence. When you keep going without applause, you build the type of inner strength that can't be broken. That strength becomes your foundation.
So when success finally comes, you'll know you earned it, not because the world cheered, but because you refused to quit when it did. You'll have people who tell you to be realistic, to tone it down, to stop dreaming so big. But realistic is often just another word for fearful. People who gave up on their own dreams will tell you to give up on yours. Don't take advice from those who settle. Listen politely, but keep your focus. You can't let the noise of others drown out the sound of your own potential. Sometimes, standing up for your dreams means saying no to comfort. It means turning down opportunities that don't align with your purpose. It means sacrificing nights out, ignoring distractions, and staying committed to something that feels far away. The hardest part is that you'll do all this quietly. No one will see the late nights, the frustration, the failures, or the lonely morning. But that's okay. Those aren't meant to be seen. They're meant to build you. Don't confuse silence with lack of progress. Growth happens quietly. A seed grows under the soil long before it breaks through the surface. Your dream is the same way. You might not see results right now, but something is happening inside you. Every day you show up, you're strengthening the roots. Keep watering your effort. Keep nurturing your mindset. The results will come, but only if you don't stop just because no one's watching. You'll realize that some people can't clap for you because your progress reminds them of their own hesitation. It's not that they don't care, they just haven't found the courage to start their own journey. Don't take it personally. Their silence isn't your fault. Don't dim your ambition to make others comfortable. You're not here to prove anything to them. You're here to become everything you're capable of. The world celebrates results but forgets the grind. They see success stories, not the endless hours behind them. So don't wait for the moment when everyone finally notices you. By then it'll be too late to start believing in yourself. Believe now while it's hard. Believe now when it's quiet. Believe now when no one is cheering. Because this is where you separate yourself from everyone else. The moment you decide that your dream is worth your full commitment, even in silence, you can't spend your life needing approval. Approval is a trap. When you chase it, you lose yourself. Every time you rely on someone else's opinion to keep going, you give away a piece of your power. Keep that power. Protect it. Use it to fuel your dream. Stand tall even when the crowd is silent. Because one day, those same people who didn't clap will say, "I always knew you'd make it." But you'll know the truth. You made it because you kept moving when no one said a word. Success is built in seasons of invisibility. You have to be okay with being unseen. That's where the real work happens. That's where habits form, skills sharpen, and resilience grows. You might not get recognition now, but that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're still in the building phase. Keep building. Every day you stay disciplined, you move closer to the version of yourself you've always wanted to meet. When you stand up for your dreams, do it with conviction. Don't apologize for wanting more. Don't explain your passion to people who can't see it. Your dream doesn't need permission to exist. It just needs you to show up for it. Be the person who keeps promises to themselves. Be the person who chooses consistency over comfort. Be the person who believes without evidence. Because that's what separates dreamers who make it from dreamers who stop. There will be times when quitting will feel easier. When the work feels heavy and the reward feels far. When doubt whispers that you're wasting your time. But remember, nothing meaningful is built in comfort. You're supposed to struggle. You're supposed to question. Those moments are shaping your character. You can't build confidence without resistance. The quiet days are not punishment, they're preparation. Your dream deserves your patience. It deserves your effort. It deserves your loyalty. Even if no one else believes in it, you must. Because if you don't, it dies. Dreams don't fade because they're impossible. They fade because people stop feeding them. Feed yours with action. Feed it with belief. Feed it with the kind of persistence that doesn't ask for applause. You're going to lose people along the way. Not everyone will understand your path. Some will drift away because your growth will make them uncomfortable. That's okay. You're not meant to be understood by everyone. You're meant to be true to yourself. When you walk your own path, you'll find people who understand it. But they'll come later after you've proven to yourself that you can walk alone. There's something beautiful about standing for your dream without validation. It gives you freedom. You no longer depend on opinions to define your progress. You become unstoppable because your motivation comes from within. You stop living for attention and start living for purpose. That's when the work becomes pure. That's when you feel fulfillment. Not from the claps, but from knowing you didn't give up on yourself. You owe it to yourself to stay committed even when it's quiet. The silence won't last forever. The same people who don't notice you now will look back in awe when your results speak louder than your words ever could. But don't do it for their reaction. Do it because your dream deserves to exist. Do it because it matters to you. So stand tall. Keep showing up. Keep working when no one's watching. Keep pushing when no one's praising. The quiet season is not the end. It's the foundation. The silence is where your dream grows its roots. Every small step, every lonely night, every doubt you overcome is building something powerful inside you. And one day, when your dream finally shines, you'll realize that the claps were never the goal. The goal was to become the person who didn't need them. Stand up for your dreams, even when no one claps. Because your worth is not measured by applause. It's measured by the courage it takes to keep believing. When the world goes silent, the silence isn't empty. It's proof that you're strong enough to create without approval. Keep going. One day you'll look back and thank yourself for every quiet step that got you there.
Chapter 5. Heal your inner pain by showing up with effort. Pain changes a person. It changes how you think, how you move, how you trust. But pain, when left unhealed, doesn't just stay in the past. It follows you quietly into every part of your life. You start building walls where you once built bridges. You start expecting disappointment before giving anything a chance. You start hiding behind words like "I'm fine," because facing what's inside feels too heavy. But here's the truth. Healing doesn't come from waiting for the pain to disappear. Healing begins when you decide to show up with effort, even while it still hurts. You can't escape inner pain by pretending it's not there. You can't ignore it long enough for it to vanish. The only way to heal is to face it, to understand it, to move through it. The effort to heal is not loud or glamorous. It's quiet, uncomfortable, and deeply personal. It means getting up on days you'd rather stay down. It means doing your best when your heart feels tired. It means forgiving yourself for still feeling broken. That's effort. That's strength. We often think healing means feeling happy again. But real healing isn't happiness. It's honesty. It's being able to sit with your pain without letting it control you. It's saying, yes, I'm still hurting, but I'm still trying. That's not weakness. That's courage. When you show up with effort, even through the pain, you're telling yourself, I deserve a better life, and I'm willing to work for it. That's how you rebuild your inner world, one honest effort at a time. There's a lie we often tell ourselves: when I feel better, I'll start. But the truth is, you start to feel better when you start. Healing happens in motion. You can't think your way out of pain. You have to act your way out. Whether that means taking care of your health, forgiving someone who hurt you, or simply getting out of bed and trying again. The act of showing up is what begins the healing. Effort turns wounds into wisdom. Avoidance turns wounds into scars that never close. You can't change what hurt you, but you can change what it taught you. You can decide that the pain won't define you, it will refine you. Every time you show up when it's hard,
You take back a piece of your power, the power that pain tried to steal. You start to realize that the act of showing up is not just for progress, it's for peace. You begin to trust yourself again. You begin to see that even if you don't have control over everything, you have control over effort. Healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means no longer letting it control your direction. You're allowed to remember and still move forward. You're allowed to feel pain and still take steps toward your goal. Showing up with effort doesn't mean you're done hurting. It means you've chosen not to stay stuck. You owe yourself that chance. Effort is what keeps pain from turning into regret. Because if you stop trying, pain becomes your identity. It starts dictating who you think you are. You start saying, "I'm broken," instead of "I'm healing." You start living in reaction to what happened, instead of creating what comes next. The way out is not found in perfect healing. It's found in imperfect effort. Every time you show up, you send a message to your mind. We're moving forward now. Healing requires discipline. You have to show up for yourself even when no one checks on you. No one else can do that work for you. You can talk, you can cry, you can seek help, and you should, but eventually it still comes down to effort. You're the one who has to decide, "I want peace more than I want pity." You're the one who has to stand up and say, "I'm not going to let this pain run my life." That choice must be made every single day. The truth is, inner pain doesn't disappear overnight. It fades slowly, almost invisibly. You'll only notice it one day when something that used to hurt doesn't sting the same way anymore. You'll look back and realize that healing didn't happen in one big moment. It happened in thousands of small efforts. Every time you chose peace over bitterness. Every time you got up when it felt pointless. Every time you chose to be kind when it was easier to be angry. That was healing in progress. You have to stop waiting for motivation to show up before you do. Motivation follows effort, not the other way around. When you act even a little, you remind yourself that you're capable. That's what starts rebuilding self-trust. And trust is the foundation of healing. Without it, you'll keep doubting your worth. You'll keep questioning whether you can change. But once you see that effort actually shifts how you feel, you start believing again. Pain tries to convince you that effort doesn't matter. It whispers that nothing will change, that no one cares, that trying won't fix what's broken. That voice is lying. Effort is never wasted. Even when it feels invisible, it's doing something inside you. It's repairing confidence, rebuilding identity, and restoring faith. Every small action, journaling, walking, reflecting, forgiving, is rewiring your brain to choose growth over suffering. Healing through effort doesn't mean forcing positivity. It's not pretending that everything's fine. It's saying, "I'm hurt, but I'm willing to do something about it." It's showing up for the gym when your heart feels heavy. It's cleaning your space when your thoughts feel messy. It's reaching out for help instead of shutting down. These aren't small things. They're proof that you haven't given up. There's a moment in everyone's life when they realize no one is coming to save them. That realization can feel lonely, but it's also liberating, because the moment you understand that healing is your responsibility, you get your power back. You stop waiting for someone to fix what's inside you. You start realizing that your peace is built by your own hands. And those hands might shake, but they're capable. The reason effort heals is simple. It replaces helplessness with purpose. Pain makes you feel powerless. But when you act, you remind yourself that you can still choose. You can choose to grow, to move, to breathe, to build something better. Action restores control, and control restores peace. Every time you take a small step forward, you weaken the grip that pain has on you. Sometimes healing looks like crying after trying. Sometimes it looks like failing and trying again anyway. Sometimes it looks like forgiving someone who doesn't deserve it. Sometimes it's just breathing through the day without shutting down. All of it counts. All of it matters. The pain might not disappear right away, but your relationship with it changes. You stop seeing it as an enemy and start seeing it as a teacher. Showing up with effort also means allowing yourself to receive help. Healing doesn't mean you do everything alone. It means you take responsibility for your healing, but you also open your heart to connection. Talk to someone who listens. Spend time around people who remind you that life is still good. Pain isolates, but connection heals. Don't let your pain convince you that you're a burden. You're not. You're human. There will be days when you feel like you're going backward, days when old wounds reopen. Don't see that as failure. It's part of healing. The mind doesn't move in straight lines. Sometimes it circles back to test whether you've really learned the lesson. That's when effort matters most. Show up again. Try again. Remind yourself that progress isn't measured by how fast you heal. It's measured by how often you refuse to give up. Effort is the bridge between pain and peace. Without it, you stay trapped in memories. With it, you start creating new experiences that remind your heart what hope feels like. Healing is not about erasing the past. It's about writing a new story beside it. Every day you show up, you're adding a new page. Eventually, the story of pain becomes a story of growth. You owe it to yourself to stop living as a victim of what happened and start living as the creator of what comes next. That's not denial, it's freedom. Pain may have shaped you, but it doesn't have to define you. What defines you is how you respond. Do you sit in the hurt, or do you stand in your effort? The choice will always be yours. Healing doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like breaking before rebuilding. But what's breaking isn't your spirit, it's your old patterns, your old beliefs, your old fears. Effort helps you replace them with strength. Every new day is a chance to show your pain that it can't stop you anymore. Every sunrise says, try again. You've carried your pain long enough. It's time to start carrying yourself. It won't be easy, but ease isn't the goal. Freedom. Every act of effort is an act of self-respect. Every time you choose to keep going, you're sending a message to your heart. You're worth saving. And once your heart starts to believe that, healing happens naturally. The people who heal are not the ones who never hurt. They're the ones who kept moving through the hurt. You can be one of them. You can rebuild yourself piece by piece, step by step, day by day. It won't be quick, and it won't be perfect, but it will be real. And real healing lasts. So show up for yourself. Show up for the version of you that didn't think they could make it. Show up for the future that still needs you. Don't wait for the pain to stop before you begin. Begin so that it can stop. Your effort is your medicine. Your action is your peace. Healing starts the moment you decide that your life is still worth working for. And if you keep showing up, one day you'll wake up and realize that the pain no longer defines you. It only reminds you how strong you truly became.
Chapter 6. Build discipline on days your heart feels heavy. There will be mornings when you wake up and your chest feels heavy, when even the smallest tasks seem like mountains. You'll sit in silence, staring at what needs to be done, but your mind whispers that you can't. On those days, motivation disappears. The fire that once kept you going feels dim. That's when discipline becomes your best friend. Because discipline doesn't ask how you feel, it asks what needs to be done. You owe it to yourself to build discipline, especially on the days your heart feels heavy, because those are the days that shape who you become. Everyone loves being productive when they feel inspired. It's easy to give your best when your mood is good, when things are working, when energy is high. But life isn't built on good days, it's built on consistent ones. The days you feel strong make you move forward, but the days you feel weak determine whether you'll stay the course.
Discipline is what bridges that gap. It's the quiet force that says, I'll show up, even when I don't want to. That voice, though small, is what separates growth from stagnation. You can't wait to feel ready every day. Feelings are unpredictable. They shift like weather. One day you're confident, the next you're exhausted. If you let feelings decide your actions, your progress will always be unstable. But if you let discipline lead, your actions remain steady no matter how unstable your emotions are. That's not about being cold, it's about being committed. It's about learning that consistency is an act of self-respect. When your heart feels heavy, discipline becomes the rope that pulls you forward. You don't need to run, you just need to take one small step. That step could be showing up to work, going for a walk, finishing that project, or just refusing to give up. What matters is that you refuse to let pain make your decisions. Pain is temporary, but habits last. When you choose effort over emotion, you slowly build a mind that can handle anything. Discipline isn't punishment, it's a form of care. It's you saying, I matter enough to do what's necessary, even when I don't feel like it. Some people confuse discipline with harshness. It's not harsh, it's loyal. It's the part of you that doesn't give up on yourself, no matter how heavy life feels. When everything inside you says, stop, discipline gently says just one more step. That's how progress is made, one quiet, consistent step at a time. Think about how many dreams have died because someone was waiting to feel ready. They had talent, ideas, passion, but no discipline. They worked hard only when it felt good. But feelings are fragile. They fade when life gets difficult. Discipline is different. It endures. It shows up in the rain, in the silence, in the doubt. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't ask for ease. It just keeps going. That's the kind of strength you need if you want to build a life that lasts. When your heart feels heavy, the temptation to quit becomes loud. You'll tell yourself it's just a break, but deep down you know it's an escape. It's easy to step back when you're tired. It's harder to keep going. But discipline isn't about perfection. It's about showing up despite imperfection. It's not about doing everything right. It's about not walking away from what matters. Every time you show up when it's hard, you teach your mind that you can be trusted. You start believing in yourself again. The hardest battle is often the one you fight in silence. No one sees your struggle. No one knows how hard it is to stay consistent. But those unseen moments define you more than anything else. Every time you choose to work through the heaviness, you're rewriting your story. You're telling your pain, you don't control me anymore. You might not feel strong in those moments, but you're becoming stronger than you've ever been. Discipline gives structure to chaos. It gives you something to hold on to when life feels uncertain. When your emotions spiral, discipline is the anchor that keeps you grounded. It reminds you that even when your world feels unstable, your actions can still be stable. You might not be able to fix everything around you, but you can still control how you respond. That's power. That's ownership. You can't think your way out of heaviness. You have to act your way through it. When your heart is heavy, your thoughts will often lie to you. They'll say, what's the point, or it doesn't matter. But it does matter. Every act of effort matters. Every bit of movement matters. The smallest step is still movement, and movement brings healing. When you act, you break the hold that pain has on you. You remind yourself that even when you're hurting, you can still move. Discipline doesn't erase the heaviness, but it keeps you from drowning in it. It builds resilience. It trains your mind to keep going when life feels unfair. And the more you practice it, the more you realize that heaviness doesn't define the day you do. You learn that you can still choose effort, even when you can't choose joy. That's what separates those who crumble from those who rise. There will be days when getting out of bed feels like a victory. And it is. Don't underestimate small wins. Sometimes discipline looks like completing a full workout. Other times it's just showing up to start it. Sometimes it's finishing your work early. Sometimes it's doing it slowly but steadily. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to stay in motion. Progress doesn't always look pretty, but it's still progress. When you build discipline on heavy days, you build self-trust. You start realizing that your strength doesn't depend on external motivation. You stop waiting for circumstances to be right and start creating results no matter what's happening around you. You stop being controlled by your emotions and start guiding them. That's the power of discipline. It puts you back in charge. You'll also learn that discipline and compassion must go hand in hand. Being disciplined doesn't mean being harsh with yourself. It means doing what's right while still treating yourself kindly. Some people mistake self-discipline for self-punishment. They push too hard, burn out, and quit. True discipline is balanced. It understands rest. It understands recovery. It knows when to push and when to pause. You don't have to destroy yourself to prove your strength. You just have to keep showing up honestly. The more you practice discipline during emotional heaviness, the more peace you'll feel later. Because you'll know that no matter what life throws at you, you have the ability to stand firm. You'll stop fearing bad days, because you'll know that bad days don't define you. They reveal you. You'll start trusting that you can handle hard things. Not because life is easy, but because you've learned to stay steady through the storm. Every time you practice discipline when your heart feels heavy, you're rebuilding the connection between mind and body. You're teaching your body to move even when your emotions resist. You're proving that your actions don't have to match your feelings. That's liberation, because once you know how to act through emotional pain, nothing can stop your growth. You'll move forward even in uncertainty. You'll keep building when others quit. Discipline is the bridge between the person you are and the person you want to become. It doesn't care about how you feel in the moment. It cares about what you truly want in the long run. Feelings pass, but the habits you build from discipline stay. Every morning you get up and follow through. You're strengthening the path toward your best self. You're laying bricks of consistencies that eventually form the foundation of your success. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is to stay consistent through heaviness. It teaches you patience. It teaches you humility. It teaches you that pain doesn't have to stop progress. It teaches you that you're capable of more than you thought. Because once you learn how to work through emotional weight, you'll never again be controlled by it. You'll feel it, acknowledge it, and keep moving anyway. Heavy days will come. Life won't always feel light or fair. But if you build discipline, those days will no longer break you. They'll refine you. They'll teach you that consistency is more powerful than any emotion. They'll remind you that strength isn't about always feeling okay. It's about showing up even when you don't. That's real maturity. That's real growth. So when your heart feels heavy, don't run from the day. Show up anyway. Do one thing that moves you forward even if it's small. It might not erase the heaviness, but it will stop it from controlling you. Every time you do that, you're building a stronger version of yourself, a version that doesn't depend on perfect conditions, but on unwavering character. There's beauty in the struggle when you see it for what it is. Training. Every difficult day is training for your future strength. Every time you act through heaviness, you're preparing for greater challenges ahead. One day, the things that used to overwhelm you will no longer scare you. You'll look back and realize that the days you wanted to quit were the ones that built your foundation. You owe it to yourself to be consistent, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Because the hardest days teach the deepest lessons. They reveal your endurance. They show you your real potential. And when your heart finally feels light again, you'll look at the life you've built, the habits, the progress, the peace, and know it came from effort, not luck. You'll know that you earned it one heavy day at a time. Discipline won't always feel good, but it will always lead you somewhere better. It's not about forcing yourself. It's about freeing yourself. It's about choosing stability in a world full of chaos. And when you master that, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you've learned how to keep going, no matter how heavy your heart feels.
Chapter 7. Trust your own voice more than outside opinions. There will come a point in your life when the loudest voices around you will try to shape who you are. Some will come from people you admire, some from people who doubt you, and some from the endless noise of a world that tells you who you should be. But the truth is simple: you will never find peace until you learn to trust your own voice more than the opinions that surround you. Your voice is the only one that knows what you've lived, what you've felt, and what you truly want. It's the voice that has been with you through every high and every heartbreak, yet it's the one you've learned to silence because you were afraid of being wrong. From a young age you were taught to listen to others. Parents, teachers, friends, co-workers, society, all giving directions, advice, and expectations. Over time it becomes easy to mistake their voices for truth. You start measuring your worth by their approval, shaping your choices around their comfort, and questioning yourself every time your opinion doesn't match theirs. The more you listen to the outside world, the more disconnected you become from yourself. That's how most people lose their clarity, not from failure, but from forgetting how to hear themselves think. Trusting your own voice doesn't mean rejecting everyone else. It means learning to filter. It means hearing opinions without letting them dictate your direction. People will always have something to say. They'll project their fears, their insecurities, and their limitations onto you. They'll call it advice, but it's often reflection. What they tell you not to do is what they're afraid to try. What they tell you can't work is what they never had the courage to attempt. If you base your life on their fear, you'll never experience your potential. Your inner voice isn't perfect, but it's honest. It might not always tell you what's easy, but it will always tell you what's right for you. It's that quiet feeling you get when something doesn't sit well, even if it looks good on paper. It's that pull toward a path no one else understands but somehow feels right in your gut. Most people ignore it because they're afraid of standing alone, but growth requires solitude. You can't hear your inner voice when you're surrounded by constant noise. You have to make space for silence, because silence is where truth speaks. The world today runs on opinions. Every scroll, every post, every headline tells you what's right, what's wrong, what's trending, and what's failing. Everyone's talking, but very few are thinking for themselves. If you're not careful, you'll start living a life built on other people's expectations instead of your own convictions. You'll wake up one day realizing you've been chasing approval instead of purpose. That realization hurts, but it's also freeing, because from that moment you can begin listening to the one voice that matters, your own. There's a difference between arrogance and self-trust. Arrogance says, "I don't need anyone." Self-trust says, "I value others, but I believe in myself." You can respect opinions without becoming controlled by them. You can learn from others without losing your individuality. When you trust your own voice, you stop asking for permission to exist. You stop apologizing for having a vision that others can't see yet. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into conversations that don't align with who you are. Sometimes the reason you feel lost is because you've been trying to live according to too many people's map. One person tells you to take one road, another says the opposite, and you end up standing still, afraid to move in any direction. But the right path is not the one with the most approval. It's the one that feels like peace when you walk it. Peace is the sign that you're aligned with your truth. Confusion often means you're trying to live someone else's version of right. You'll have moments where trusting yourself will feel lonely. You'll doubt your decisions. You'll question whether you're making a mistake. But that's part of the journey. The goal isn't to always be certain, it's to be honest. Certainty comes later, through experience. If you wait for everyone to agree before you act,
you'll wait forever. People can't always see what you see. Your vision is meant for you, not for them. You can explain it, you can share it, but you can't expect everyone to understand it. When you make choices from your own conviction, something powerful happens. You begin to respect yourself more. You stop needing constant reassurance. You start making peace with your decisions, even when they lead to mistakes, because you know they were yours. Mistakes made from self-trust teach lessons. Mistakes made from people-pleasing teach resentment. When you follow your own voice, even your failures help you grow. They become steps toward wisdom instead of weights of regret. Trusting your voice requires you to let go of your need to be liked. The truth is, the more authentic you become, the fewer people will understand you. But the ones who do will value you deeply. You can't have both approval and authenticity in full measure. One demands that you change to please others, and the other asks that you remain true to yourself. Choose authenticity. It lasts longer. Approval fades as soon as opinions shift, but authenticity gives you a foundation that no one can shake. You'll notice that people will try to control what they don't understand. The moment you make a decision that challenges their comfort, they'll question it. They'll call it risky, irresponsible, unrealistic. That's okay. They don't have to see what you see. You're not responsible for their understanding. You're responsible for your growth. The sooner you accept that, the lighter your life becomes, because instead of explaining yourself, you'll be busy building yourself. Your voice carries wisdom you've earned through your own experiences. Every challenge, every heartbreak, every failure has taught you something unique. No one else has lived your exact life, so no one else can fully know what's right for you. That's why your inner guidance is sacred. It's built from truth you've lived, not from theories others imagine. When you ignore that voice, you dishonor everything you've survived. You silence the part of you that knows what it took to get here. Trusting yourself doesn't mean you'll never feel fear again. It means you'll move forward even with fear in your pocket. Fear is natural, but when you trust your own judgment, you stop letting fear make decisions for you. You learn that you can feel afraid and still act. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. Confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to trust yourself more than you doubt yourself. To strengthen that trust, you have to spend time alone. Not loneliness, just solitude, space without distractions, without voices, without constant input. Solitude helps you hear what your heart has been trying to say all along. It helps you reconnect with what matters. Most people avoid silence because it forces them to face themselves. But silence is where direction comes from. If you can't be comfortable in your own thoughts, you'll always be controlled by others' opinions. Sometimes your own voice will go against everything familiar. It will tell you to take risks that no one else would take. It will tell you to walk away from things everyone else would stay in. That's where courage comes in. Because trusting yourself doesn't mean following the crowd. It means being brave enough to walk your own path, even if that means walking alone for a while. You'll be misunderstood, you'll be doubted, but you'll also be free, and that freedom will make all the difference. The more you trust yourself, the quieter the world becomes. You stop chasing approval because you realize it never gave you peace anyway. You stop comparing because you understand that comparison disconnects you from gratitude. You stop over-explaining because your energy is better spent on progress. You stop apologizing for growing because growth is not something to hide. The noise around you might still exist, but it won't control your focus anymore. You owe it to yourself to build a relationship with your own intuition. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Every time you listen to yourself and it leads you right, you build trust. Every time you ignore it and regret it, you learn. Either way, you grow. Over time, you'll reach a point where you don't need constant confirmation from anyone. You'll move with quiet certainty. Not arrogance, but calm assurance, knowing that you're aligned with your truth. When you start living from your own voice, people might call you selfish, but there's nothing selfish about choosing peace over approval. There's nothing wrong with creating a life that feels right to you, even if it doesn't make sense to others. It's your journey. You're the one who has to live it every day. It's not your job to live according to someone else's fears or expectations. Your job is to create a life that feels honest, fulfilling, and yours. Learning to trust your voice takes time. It requires unlearning habits of doubt and replacing them with self-assurance. It means making mistakes and forgiving yourself for them. It means standing firm in your choices when others question them. But every time you do, you build a stronger foundation. You stop being swayed by every opinion and start being guided by conviction. That's how confidence is born. Not from perfection, but from self-trust practiced over time. Eventually you'll realize that outside opinions are temporary. They shift with trends, moods, and personal biases. But your inner voice stays with you forever. It's the one that will guide you when everything else feels uncertain. It's the one that will remind you of your worth when the world tries to make you doubt it. It's the one that will push you forward when others can't see your vision. You owe it to yourself to listen, not because it's always easy, but because it's always true. Your voice might not be the loudest, but it will always be the most accurate. It knows your dreams, your pain, your purpose. It has seen your strength when no one else has. You've ignored it long enough. It's time to trust it. Because once you do, the noise fades, the confusion clears, and you finally start living the life that belongs to you. Not the one others think you should have, but the one your heart has been asking for all along.
Chapter 8. Turn loneliness into strength and keep moving forward. Loneliness has a way of finding everyone at some point in life. It arrives quietly, not always in the form of empty rooms or silence, but in moments where you feel unseen even in a crowd, unheard even in conversations, disconnected even from people you care about. It's one of the hardest feelings to face because it makes you question your worth, your direction, and sometimes even your identity. But loneliness isn't the enemy we think it is. It's not a punishment or proof that you're broken. It's a message. It's your soul saying, it's time to know yourself. When you stop running from loneliness and start learning from it, something powerful happens. You turn isolation into self-discovery, and you start building strength that can't be shaken by anyone's presence or absence. Most people try to escape loneliness by filling the silence. They reach for distractions, noise, attention, anything to avoid sitting with themselves. But that escape never works for long. Because loneliness doesn't go away when you drown it out. It only fades when you understand it. The truth is, loneliness is not always about missing other people. Sometimes it's about missing yourself. The version of you that got lost while trying to please everyone else. You've spent so much time showing up for others that you forgot what it means to show up for you. And when the noise stops, when everyone leaves, what's left is the space where you meet yourself again. Turning loneliness into strength starts with acceptance. Not acceptance that you'll be alone forever, but acceptance that being alone is part of life's rhythm. It's a season, not a sentence. There's power in learning to be okay with your own company. When you stop fearing solitude, you discover freedom. You realize you don't have to constantly perform to feel worthy. You don't have to chase people to feel valued. You don't have to fill every quiet moment with noise. You start finding comfort in stillness, peace in silence, and clarity in your own presence. Strength comes when you stop seeing loneliness as emptiness and start seeing it as space. Space to think, space to grow, space to rebuild. When you have no one to lean on, you learn to lean on yourself. When no one is watching, you discover what truly motivates you. When you have no audience, you finally create for yourself, not for applause.
The solitude that once scared you becomes the environment that shapes you. It becomes the training ground for resilience. People often associate loneliness with weakness, but it's the opposite. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet built that strength in silence. They found it in long nights of reflection, in difficult mornings where they had to keep going with no one cheering them on. Strength born from loneliness is different. It's not loud or flashy. It's quiet, steady, and deeply rooted. It doesn't need validation because it's built on inner stability. You don't become stronger by pretending you don't feel lonely. You become stronger by acknowledging it and choosing to move forward anyway. That's what resilience looks like. It's not the absence of pain, it's the decision to keep living with purpose despite it. Every time you move forward alone, you prove to yourself that your survival doesn't depend on constant companionship. You realize that the love and validation you've been waiting to receive from others were things you could give to yourself all along. Loneliness teaches self-awareness. It shows you what truly matters, what drains you, what fulfills you. It strips away the noise and reveals your real priorities. When you're alone, there's no one to impress, just the truth of who you are. That truth can be uncomfortable at first, because it forces honesty. But honesty is the beginning of transformation. When you stop hiding from your thoughts, you start hearing your real desires. You start understanding your patterns, your mistakes, your strength. And from that awareness, you begin to grow. It's in lonely seasons that you build habits that last. You start developing consistency. Because you're not distracted by constant validation. You learn how to motivate yourself, how to comfort yourself, how to push yourself. You start making choices based on your values, not on what others expect. That's how independence is born, not from rejecting connection, but from realizing that connection starts within. Sometimes, loneliness feels unbearable because it brings back memories of rejection or loss. You think of people who left, moments that ended, love that faded. Those thoughts sting. But even that pain can serve a purpose. It reminds you that you're capable of feeling deeply. It reminds you that your heart still works. And as painful as it is, that same heart is also capable of healing. Healing begins when you stop defining your worth by who stayed and start defining it by how you rise. Turning loneliness into strength means changing how you see it. Instead of saying, "I'm alone," say, "I'm with myself." That small shift changes everything. Being with yourself is not isolation. It's intimacy. It's a relationship that deserves attention, just like any other. You spend years learning to love others, to understand them, to be patient with. Imagine what would happen if you gave yourself that same patience, that same love, that same care. You'd stop searching for people to complete you, because you'd realize you're already whole. When you make peace with solitude, the quality of your relationships changes too. You no longer cling to people out of fear. You connect out of choice. You stop begging for attention, because you've learned to give yourself validation. You stop tolerating half-hearted love, because you've learned what full-hearted peace feels. The relationships that come after self-connection are stronger, healthier, and more authentic, because they're not built on need, they're built on respect. Loneliness also sharpens focus. When you're not constantly surrounded by voices, you can hear your goals more clearly. You can think deeply, plan strategically, and act intentionally. Most of the world's breakthroughs were born in solitude. The writer alone at a desk, the athlete training before dawn, the thinker pacing in silence, all of them found strength in being alone. Solitude gives birth to vision. It allows you to see what others can't because you're not distracted by the crowd. The strength you build in loneliness will carry you through every season of life. When challenges come, you won't collapse because you've learned how to stand on your own. When people leave, you won't break because your peace doesn't depend on their presence. When opinions rise, you won't waver because your direction comes from within. That kind of strength isn't built overnight. It's built in quiet mornings, long evenings, and countless moments of choosing yourself again and again. To keep moving forward, you have to stop treating loneliness as something to escape and start treating it as something to grow through. Every lonely season is temporary, but what you learn in it can last a lifetime. You learn resilience, independence, and clarity. You learn how to find calm in discomfort. You learn how to sit with pain without letting it consume you. That emotional endurance becomes your superpower. It gives you stability when others lose control. There's nothing wrong with craving connection. We all need it, but you have to make sure you're not seeking connection as a way to avoid because no relationship, no friendship, no company can fill the space that only self-connection can fill. You can have a room full of people and still feel empty if you've never built a relationship with yourself. That's why loneliness comes back even in crowds. It's not about being surrounded, it's about being aligned. Keep moving forward even when you feel alone. You don't have to move fast. Some days, progress will be slow. Some days, it will feel invisible. But forward is forward. Every time you keep going, you prove that loneliness doesn't control you. It might visit, but it doesn't define your path. You define it through persistence, faith, and daily effort. You might not feel strong while you're doing it, but one day you'll look back and realize that loneliness didn't break you, it built you. There will be moments when loneliness tries to convince you to give up. It will whisper that no one cares, that no one's watching, that your effort doesn't matter. But that's when you must remind yourself that progress isn't made for attention. It's made for growth. Every silent step matters. Every private effort counts. You're becoming someone who doesn't depend on circumstances to keep moving. That's real freedom. You'll reach a point where loneliness no longer scares you. It becomes familiar, even comforting. You'll find peace in your own company. You'll start to enjoy your thoughts, your ideas, your routine. You'll stop running from silence and start using it as fuel. That's when you know you've turned loneliness into strength, because now solitude isn't something that hurts. It's something that helps. One day, you'll look back on the lonely nights and realize they were the foundation of your strength. You'll see that every quiet moment was teaching you patience, self-trust, and resilience. You'll understand that loneliness wasn't trying to destroy you. It was trying to prepare you. It was shaping you into someone who can stand tall, no matter who stands beside you. You owe it to yourself to keep moving forward, even when no one walks with you. The road might feel long, but it's leading you somewhere better. Every step alone brings you closer to peace. Every act of perseverance makes you stronger. Loneliness is not the end of your story. It's the chapter that teaches you how to write the rest of it with courage, confidence, and independence. So when the nights get quiet and the world feels distant, don't run from it. Sit with yourself, listen, learn, grow, because the strength you build in those moments will stay with you long after the loneliness fades. Keep moving forward with faith in your journey. You're not lost. And what you're becoming is someone powerful enough to walk alone, yet peaceful enough to never feel lonely again.
Chapter 9. Take responsibility for your growth and stop blaming life. There comes a moment when you realize that no one is coming to save you. No miracle, no perfect circumstance, no person is going to suddenly make your life what you want it to be. That realization can feel harsh, but it's also one of the most powerful truths you'll ever accept. Because once you stop waiting for life to fix itself, you start taking control. You stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I do about it?" That shift from blame to responsibility is the beginning of real growth. It's easy to point fingers at life when things don't go your way. You can blame bad luck, unfair people, your past, or your situation. And for a while, it feels good to do that. It relieves you from the weight of accountability. But blame is a thief. It steals your power by convincing you that you have none. The more you blame, the weaker you become, because you hand over control to everything outside of you. Growth
only starts when you take it back. Taking responsibility for your growth doesn't mean you have to pretend everything's your fault. It means you stop waiting for external change and start focusing on internal change. You can't control what others do, but you can control how you respond. You can't rewrite the past, but you can decide how to learn from it. Responsibility isn't about guilt, it's about empowerment. It says, no matter what happens, I have a say in what comes next. There are two types of people in the world, those who let life happen to them, and those who make life happen for them. The first group waits. They wait for motivation, for luck, for timing. The second group creates. They act even when it's hard, even when it's uncertain. They understand that growth isn't automatic, it's intentional. It takes discipline, patience, and ownership. If you want to grow, you have to stop blaming the world and start building yourself. When you blame life, you stay stuck. You convince yourself that your circumstances are fixed, that your potential is limited, that your pain is permanent. But when you take responsibility, your perspective changes. You begin to see challenges as lessons. You start realizing that life isn't against you, it's reacting to you. The world mirrors your effort, your mindset, your consistency. If you want better outcomes, you must become the kind of person who creates them. Every successful person you admire has one thing in common. They took responsibility for their story. They didn't wait for the perfect background, the perfect timing, or the perfect support system. They started where they were, with what they had, and they grew from there. They made mistakes, faced setbacks, and still chose to learn instead of complain. That's the difference between victims and victors. One blames, the other builds. Taking responsibility is not glamorous. It doesn't give you instant satisfaction. It requires humility because it means admitting that you might be part of the problem. It means looking at your habits, your choices, your excuses, and asking yourself if they align with the life you say you want. Most people avoid that level of honesty because it's uncomfortable, but that discomfort is where transformation begins. Growth never happens in denial. It happens in awareness. You can't grow if you keep telling yourself the same story about why you can't. Every time you say, I'm like this because of them, you trap yourself. Every time you say, I'd change if things were different, you pause your own progress. Life is never going to be perfect. People will hurt you, opportunities will be missed, and situations will be unfair. But none of that decides your future. You do. The moment you stop blaming, you take the wheel back. You start steering instead of drifting. There's a powerful kind of freedom that comes from taking responsibility. It's the realization that you don't need to wait for permission anymore. You can start learning new skills today. You can fix your habits today. You can take better care of your mind and body today. You don't need the world to agree before you move. You just need to decide. That decision changes everything. It gives you direction, and direction gives you strength. Blaming life might make you feel right, but it won't make you grow. Growth requires humility. It requires the courage to say, maybe I've been holding myself back. It's not easy to admit that you've been repeating the same patterns or making the same excuses, but it's necessary. Once you accept responsibility, you can fix what's broken. You can create new habits, new thoughts, new outcomes. You become the driver instead of the passenger. Taking responsibility also means managing your reaction. You can't control what life throws at you, but you can control how you handle it. Some people spend their entire lives reacting to problems instead of solving them. They let emotions make decisions, and then they blame circumstances for the results. But people who grow know better. They pause, they reflect, and then they respond with clarity. That emotional control is a sign of maturity. It's the mark of someone who's learned that peace comes from the inside, not from external conditions. It's easy to say, life is unfair. Sometimes it really is. But fairness is not a requirement for growth. Growth thrives on adversity. Every difficult season has something to teach you. Every disappointment hides a lesson. Every failure gives you data on what not to repeat. When you stop blaming and start studying your challenges, they turn from obstacles into teachers. That shift in perspective is what separates progress from paralysis. One of the greatest truths about growth is that it doesn't happen by chance. It happens by design. You can't drift into improvement. You have to build it with intention. That means setting goals, creating systems, staying consistent, and holding yourself accountable. Accountability is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront your choices, but without it, growth stays a wish instead of becoming a reality. Taking responsibility also means owning your effort. You can't expect big results from minimal input. If you want more, you have to give more focus, more patience, more discipline. Life rewards those who take it seriously. If you half commit to your goals, you'll always live in frustration. But if you give your best consistently, even when it's not easy, progress becomes inevitable. Stop saying, "It's just how I am." That's not identity. That's avoidance. The person you are is not a fixed product. You're a work in progress. You can evolve. You can change patterns that don't serve you. You can grow into someone stronger, wiser, calmer, but that won't happen if you keep defending your limitation. Taking responsibility means believing that you can become better, and then proving it through action. You also have to stop comparing your growth to others. Blaming life sometimes shows up as envy. You look at what others have and assume they had it easier. But you don't know their story. You don't see the sacrifices, the late nights, the persistence behind their success. When you waste time comparing, you lose focus on your own work. The only person you should compete with is who you were yesterday. Every day is another chance to level up, and that's only possible if you stay accountable to your own progress. Responsibility also means being patient with the process. Growth doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, repetition, and resilience. You might not see results immediately, but that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're building. Blame thrives on impatience. Responsibility thrives on persistence. If you're consistent long enough, the results always come. You just have to stop expecting instant change and start trusting steady effort. Blaming life gives you temporary comfort, but responsibility gives you permanent change. When you stop complaining and start taking action, everything shifts. You start waking up with a sense of purpose instead of frustration. You stop seeing problems as punishment and start seeing them as preparation. Life stops feeling like something that's happening to you and starts feeling like something you're shaping. Sometimes you'll fall short even when you're doing your best. That's part of growth too. Taking responsibility doesn't mean expecting perfection. It means owning your journey. You'll make mistakes. You'll have bad days. But instead of blaming the world or giving up, you reflect, learn, and keep moving. That's what maturity looks like. Not avoidance, but awareness. If you want your life to change, you have to stop outsourcing accountability. It's not your boss, your parents, your partner, or your circumstances that determine your future. It's you. The power has been in your hands all along. Every decision you make either builds your future or delays it. Every habit you form either strengthens you or weakens you. Every excuse you give either protects your comfort or prevents your growth. Choose consciously. Taking responsibility also means celebrating your progress. Growth isn't just about fixing what's wrong. It's about acknowledging what's right. Every small win, every lesson learned, every bit of effort matters. When you celebrate progress, you reinforce self-belief. You remind yourself that change is possible because you're making it happen. That sense of pride keeps you motivated when the journey gets tough. You owe it to yourself to stop blaming and start building. Life doesn't owe you fairness, but it gives you opportunity every single day. The question is what you'll do with it. You can stay bitter, or you can get better. You can stay stuck in stories of why it's hard, or you can write a new story about how you grew anyway. The power has always been yours to claim. Every time you take responsibility, you grow stronger. Every time you choose ownership over excuses, you move forward. Every time you stop blaming and start acting, you break a little more free from the limitations that once held you back. Growth doesn't begin when life gets easier. It begins when you decide to get stronger. So stop blaming life. Life is neutral. It's what you make it. Take that energy you've been using to complain and turn it into action. Use your time to learn, improve, and create. The moment you take full ownership, everything changes. Because now you're no longer waiting for life to happen. You're leading it. You become the author, not the audience. And that's when you realize that your growth, your peace, and your success have been in your hands all along.
Chapter 10. Promise yourself that 2026 will not be wasted. A new year isn't magic, but it is a mirror. It reflects what you've done and reminds you of what you've ignored. You look back and see moments you could have used better, chances you let slip, promises you made but never kept. You can't undo what's behind you, but you can decide that what's ahead will be different. You can decide that 2026 will not be another year that drifts by in distraction, in hesitation, in waiting. This time it can be the year you show up fully for your own life. You owe yourself that. Not because you're behind, but because you deserve to see what your best actually looks like when you stop holding back. Making that promise to yourself isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about no longer living on autopilot. Most people don't waste years because they're lazy. They waste them because they're unfocused. They move through days reacting instead of deciding. They spend hours scrolling, comparing, overthinking, planning but not acting. Before they know it, another year is gone, filled with busyness but empty of progress. 2026 doesn't have to be that kind of year. You can make it the year of deliberate living, the year you wake up each morning with intention and go to bed with pride. A promise is sacred. It's a contract between who you are and who you're becoming. When you promise yourself that 2026 will not be wasted, you're not just talking about working harder. You're talking about living wiser. You're saying, I will not spend another year waiting for motivation. I will not waste energy blaming circumstances. I will not let fear choose my direction. You're deciding to treat your time like the most valuable thing you own. Because time is the one thing you can never get back. And the truth is, one day you'll wish you had more of it. So use it now. Start by being honest about how much of your life is being used intentionally. Take a look at your days. How much time goes to habits that serve your growth? How much goes to things that drain you? Growth doesn't require huge changes overnight. It requires small, consistent adjustments in how you spend your time and where you place your focus. You can't keep saying you want a different life while living the same day over and over. Something has to shift. And that shift begins when you promise yourself that you'll stop wasting energy on things that don't move you forward. Every wasted year begins with wasted days. Days of procrastination, distraction, and self-doubt. You say, I'll start tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes next week, next month, next year. But the truth is, someday is a lie we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. If you want to make 2026 count, stop waiting for the right moment. The right moment is the one where you start, even if it's small, even if it's messy. Movement creates momentum. The moment you begin, your energy shifts, your confidence grows, and your life starts changing in real time. Don't underestimate how much 1 year can change your life when you take it seriously. In 12 months, you can learn new skills, heal old wounds, build strong habits,
and create a version of yourself that feels unrecognizable compared to who you are now. But that won't happen by accident. It happens by consistency. Promise yourself that every day in 2026, you'll do at least one thing that pushes you forward, even if it's small. Read, learn, plan, move, grow. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be daily. 2026 can be the year you stop living by pressure and start living by purpose. You've spent enough time trying to meet expectations that don't belong to you. You've tried to please people who didn't notice your effort. This year is about you. Not in a selfish way, but in a responsible one. It's about building the life you've been postponing. It's about choosing what truly matters and letting go of what doesn't. You owe yourself focus. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself effort. To keep your promise, you'll need structure. Motivation will come and go, but structure keeps you moving. Build systems that support your goal. Create routines that protect your time. Set boundaries that defend your focus. If you don't design your days, the world will design them for you. 2026 will not feel different unless you live differently. You don't have to change everything at once, but you have to change something. And yes, there will be hard days. There will be mornings where you feel unmotivated, nights where you question whether it's working, moments where old habits try to pull you back. But that's exactly when the promise matters most. It's easy to commit when it's convenient. It's powerful to commit when it's uncomfortable. Discipline will carry you where motivation can't. Every time you show up on a hard day, you're proving to yourself that this year will not slip away like the others. Remember that no one else can make this promise for you. Friends can encourage you, books can inspire you, but no one can live your 2026 except you. No one else feels what you feel when you go to bed knowing you didn't try. No one else knows the potential you're capable of. This is between you and your own reflection. And if you're tired of feeling like you could be doing more, it's time to stop talking about change and start living it. Take accountability for your direction. If something isn't working, don't wait for it to fix itself. Adjust. Learn, improve. You don't have to get everything right, but you do have to stay in motion. Life rewards movement. Even when you make mistakes, you're still gaining experience. Failure isn't a waste of time, inaction is. Every step you take teaches you something. Every mistake makes you sharper. You can't waste a year when you're learning every day. To make 2026 count, you also have to define what not wasted means to you. It doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. For some, it might mean building a business or changing career. For others, it might mean rebuilding confidence, improving health, repairing relationships, or finding peace. What matters is that it's meaningful to you. A year is wasted only when it's lived without intention. If you wake up every day with a reason to try, you're already ahead of most people. This year should not be lived on repeat. If you enter 2026 with the same mindset that kept you stuck before, it will become 2025 all over again. Promise yourself growth, not perfection. Promise yourself honesty. Promise yourself that you won't lie about your effort or make excuses when things get uncomfortable. Excuses steal more time than failure ever could. You can recover from mistakes, but you can't recover lost years. Make this the year of accountability. The year you look at your habits and ask, is this helping me or hurting me? The year you stop settling for comfort when you know you're capable of more. The year you stop chasing quick satisfaction and start building long-term fulfillment. You deserve more than half-hearted effort and empty promises. You deserve the satisfaction that comes from knowing you kept your word to yourself. There will be times in 2026 when progress feels slow. You'll question if it's worth it. But those are the moments that define you. If you keep pushing forward when the excitement fades, you'll find a strength you didn't know you had. You'll realize that growth doesn't come from big bursts of effort. It comes from showing up again and again, especially when no one is watching. Don't let this year slip into the category of someday. Don't keep saying I'll start when things calm down or I'll try when I feel ready. Life never gets perfectly calm, and readiness is built through action, not before it. The people who achieve what they want aren't always the smartest or the luckiest. They're the ones who simply follow through. They decide, they act, and they keep acting. Be one of those people this year. The promise you make to yourself now will shape the person you become 12 months from today. Imagine the pride of looking back and knowing you didn't waste another year. Imagine the peace of knowing you stayed committed even when it was hard. Imagine the confidence of seeing your progress and realizing that every small step added up to something real. That's what's waiting for you if you keep your word. 2026 doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. You don't have to do everything right, you just have to stay true to your promise. Some days you'll move fast, others you'll crawl, but forward is forward. Every small victory matters. Every bit of effort compounds. Every time you choose focus over distraction, you invest in your future self, and the person you'll become by the end of this year will thank you for not giving up when it was easier to stay comfortable. You've had enough years that felt wasted. Enough times you said next time. Enough moments of regret. This time is different, not because life will make it easier, but because you're ready to make it count. Promise yourself that no matter how hard it gets, you won't abandon your own potential again. You'll use every day, every challenge, every opportunity to move closer to who you want to be. At the end of 2026, you can either look back with pride or with excuses. The difference will be what you do today. So make the promise and mean it. Promise to live with purpose. Promise to show up even when it's hard. Promise to use your time like it matters, because it does. Promise yourself that 2026 will not be wasted, and then live every single day in a way that honors that promise. Because your life deserves that kind of commitment, and you deserve to see what happens when you finally keep it.